I'd like to ask you a question. What does an old, dusty, 300-page Borefest, also known as a book, have to do with you and your future? There is technically no fixed answer to this question, but there is a clue. Roald Dahl once said, if you are going to get anywhere in life, you have to read a lot of books. Although my idea is worth spreading to all people, I wanted to be heard by a specific generation. The generation many people here, including myself, were born into, or the generation commonly known as Gen Z. They're the most racially and ethnically diverse generation in history and are notable for being the first generation almost totally immersed in the internet since birth. Gen Z was born into a time when the internet was always readily available, which also means that stereotypes like books are boring or people who read are nerds who don't have a social life were more easily spread through social media. Studies as aggregated by Best by the Numbers show that only 40% of Gen Zers in France read as a hobby and 23% read for work, which leaves 37% who barely read at all. In fact, Gen Z only reads for an average of 7 minutes a day, which is very low compared to the silent generation with 35 minutes, or even baby boomers with 26. But what if I told you that books are the hope of today's generation? Here's only a few points on how reading can help everyone. First, reading strengthens your brain. Through MRI scans, researchers have found that reading actually involves a complex network of circuits and signals in your brain, and they get stronger and more refined as your reading ability matures. Next, reading reduces stress. In 2009, a group of researchers from Seton Hall University and UT Southwestern Medical Center measured the effects of reading on the stress of students. And the study found that just 30 minutes of reading lowered blood pressure, heart rate, and feelings of psychological distress, just as effectively as other known stress relievers such as yoga and humor. Reading increases your ability to empathize. Research published by the National Library of Medicine in the US has shown that people who read literary fiction, those stories that give you an insight in the lives of characters, they show a more intensive ability to understand and respect the feelings and beliefs of others, and that this ability is part of a set of skills called the theory of mind, which is essential for building and navigating social relationships. Reading promotes mental health, improves focus and concentration, and stimulates imagination and creativity. Furthermore, it also helps lessen cognitive decline as individuals get older. The list goes on and on. The possibilities are boundless. I, for one, grew up loving books, and I mean really love them. I always carry a book with me. My family and I would never pass up on book fairs. And we would always come home with more than our small house can accommodate. But the pandemic is when books helped me the most. My whole family was locked in the house for 8 whole months. But amazingly, never have I felt FOMO or boredom throughout those months, even with limited screen time and no access to the outside world. Books were my escape, my refuge, and what kept me emotionally and mentally stress-free during that challenging time. But it's not just me. Some of the world's most successful individuals attribute their success to reading. Abraham Lincoln, with limited education, taught himself to read and would walk long distances to borrow books. Sounds like my kind of guy. Albert Einstein, when he was pondering the great mysteries of the world, unwound with books like A Treatise of Human Nature and Don Quixote. He opened the book club with a group of friends and once said, if you want your children to be intelligent, read them fairy tales. If you want them to be more intelligent, read them more fairy tales. Some sound parenting advice if you ask me. Even LeBron James, the basketball legend, says that reading actually benefits athletes immensely. He was seen reading the Hunger Games series and has spoken out about how reading is an essential part of his pre-game ritual, which he encourages other players to try. In the Oxford English Dictionary, a book is a portable volume consisting of a series of written, printed, or illustrated pages bound together for ease of reading. Because that's really all it is. Why a book can seem so alive to us is different. Researchers have found that visual imagery is just automatic to our brain, and that when we read, the brain doesn't make a real distinction between reading about an experience and actually living it. And whether you are reading about or experiencing something, the same neurological regions are stimulated. Only a true God could create such a powerful brain. But the use of it isn't a forced requirement, but a personal choice only you can make. So why should you make that choice and read? Reading gives you so many benefits, breaks stereotypes, and lets you escape into a million paracosms to explore. So the question is, are you brave enough to venture into the pages of a book and tap into a world of infinite knowledge? I hope so, because with all of its benefits, reading books can actually give you a chance to your own happily ever after. The end.